Okay, so first up, and you might need your magnifying glasses again now. Can I make this bigger? Right. In fact, let me go to, where's VS Code? This is going to be a challenge for me because this screen resolution is minute. Look at that. Brilliant. Okay, right, we'll go to about that. That's about right. Okay, so I am using the FDC3 Sail project here, and I've kind of prepared all this for you to just take away and use. So in, if I go to FINOS FDC3 Sail, there is a branch of FDC3 Sail here called Sail to OSFF, and that's the branch I'm working from. So if you download that branch, you'll be able to follow along with me with what I'm doing here. And I have that run. Sorry, yeah. Oop. No, not that window. Sail, where's it on? It was Sail to OSFF. Why is it not there? There you go, Sail to OSFF. Okay, and so I have that here. And so you have git branch. Sail to Chris demo. Well, let's check out git checkout. Sail to OSFF. I don't need Chris's demo anymore. That was an hour ago. We're on to something new now. So I'm going to do npm update, although I doubt it's going to change much. And I'm going to run Sail so you can see what it is I'm talking about. And then we're going to start learning about some FDC3 concepts. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt again. So FDC3 is like the core protocol itself, and Sail is a whole application that includes this agent running on the desktop and the front end?
Yeah,
yeah.
So I will, yeah, I'll show you in a second, just npm. So it will make complete sense when you see it. Okay. Okay, I think that's up. So this is the demo I was just giving like half an hour ago. So this is FDC3 Sail. Let's try and make this a bit bigger as well. So the way FDC3 works, it's kind of split into apps and a desktop agent. And apps, obviously, to do interop, the apps need to communicate with each other. And the desktop agent kind of facilitates that. So the desktop agent, you can think of it as like the postman. It's like posting the messages between the apps to keep everything talking to each other. So these are two apps, the FDC3 Workbench and TradingView. So this is like a widget that TradingView, the company, provide. I've created an FDC3 version of it. And just to give you an example of this, right? Hi, come in and join. Yes, so just to recap for the people who've just joined, this is FDC3 Sail. It's running in the browser. Okay, so it's a desktop agent running in the browser. FDC3 splits, it has apps and it has a desktop agent, and the apps communicate with one another via the desktop agent. The desktop agent delivers messages to the apps as and when they need them. So to give you an example of that, one of the things I can do here is raise an intent. So I'm going to close this guy down here. And if I go, let me do this. So let's say I'm working with this Apple stock. And if I go raise intent, then I can decide where I'm going to send that. So the idea of this Apple stock, maybe I'm like doing some analysis on it. Oh, I want to view a chart of it. OK, so I can click on OK, and it will open a window and show me that chart. So this is obviously saving users time, because instead of having to like go to their charting application and type in Apple and everything, they can just press a button in the first application and the second application opens up. So this is kind of part of the value of FDC3. And let's say I had a couple of these applications open at the same time. So let's open another one. And so I'm going to go into the details in a bit, but there's two applications here. One's Apple, one's Microsoft. Another concept in FDC3 is that you want to keep applications in sync, right? And they're not in sync at the moment. These two charts are showing different things, right? But I can broadcast some data from one app to another. So this FDC3 Workbench, this is like a little testing tool that the FDC3 community came up with. It's pretty handy for these kinds of demos. So I'm going to broadcast the meta intent, and once I've done that, you see that all the applications update to show me the meta stock. So maybe I'm doing some analysis on meta, and then I change to do analysis on something else. All my windows can update and stay consistent. So this is kind of the value add of FDC3, especially if you have like 6 or 7 different screens and you've got 20 apps working in each screen or something like that, which is what a lot of traders do have. So this is a way of saving them time, basically. They don't have to go into every single app, changing the context of the app. So, so as you've kind of gathered, right, these apps are running in iframes inside Sail here. And they could be on any host. They don't have to be on the same host. The whole point of FDC3 Sail is that we have different providers providing different apps. So we can have like a news application. So there's a top stories thing here, and so on, right? And for the purposes of this demo today, and I wonder where these icons have gone. Let me just reload this. No, they're still gone. Okay, so for the purposes of this demo today, I've created 2 apps, and I'm going to show them to you. So I have this pricer app here. So if I open this up, you can see this is like showing me the price of Tesla. Maybe this is some like trading system where I can go and buy some Tesla stock, and I need to know the price of it. These are like just test applications. We're going to make some changes to this today as we go along, and you'll see how easy it is to add FDC3 functionality in. I've got a list of stocks I can change to Microsoft or Apple. They're my favorite stocks to have on demos. Okay, so, and the idea is that with FDC3 is that this is kind of like an app directory, right? These are all the different apps in my directory. Now, I've only got 6, I'm keeping it simple, right? There's only 6 apps here. In reality, you might have 30, 40, 50 apps, whatever's going on in your environment. And the way Sail works is that we have this picker over here where I can actually choose different sets of apps, and I can sort of configure those. And if I go back to here now, you'll see that like there's loads in there, right? So you can configure your own app directories in Sail and turn them on and off. So I'm just going to turn those off again. I'm going to leave these 2 on. Yeah, so we're back to where we started from. All right, any questions so far about apps, directories? Does this all make sense? All good? All right. So I'm going to dive in a little bit more. So when I was showing you that demo of, yeah.
This statement, like these apps would be on different hosts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how is the communication happening between these apps on different hosts? Right?
Yeah.
The central region there is currently running on desktop. That's pretty material.
Yeah, so that's clever, right? So if you look at this, let me just, so one of the things I can do is fire something up in a new tab. If I do this, oh, wrong button, sorry. FDC3 Workbench. Oh, okay, that was the change I made for Chris's demo. Okay. If I look at, I mean, I have to go into the debugger to show you this, right? But where are we? Let's try and make this a bit bigger as well. So where's this app? So this app here is running on localhost 3000. But if you look over here, this is running on localhost 8090. So they're different ports. And in Chrome, different hosts and different ports aren't allowed to communicate with each other. That's kind of, there's this browser sandbox model. So they're not normally allowed to communicate. But there is a thing in the browser called post message. And post message allows you to send messages from one tab to another. So the way that FDC3 for the web works is that it will post message back from one window to another to try and find out if the window is a desktop agent. And then it begins this whole sort of handshaking process to establish a communication channel with that desktop agent. And then it uses something called message ports, which is like a standard JavaScript function. And the two apps will communicate, or rather the desktop agent and the app will communicate via a message port. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah.
Question about how you're actually showing these two apps. So normally there would be a CORS restriction, like you mentioned, to prevent two hosts, or prevent the main host from loading an iframe from a different host. Do you have to set do you have to set a CORS header? Like a CORS allow origin star or something?
No. I'm not quite, yeah, so CORS, isn't that something to do with like running things inside iframes? So if you can't parent, or is that something else? I can't quite remember.
It's a lot of restrictions.
Yeah.
It's any cross-origin resource sharing. So
Yeah.
if I want to load up an iframe from a different host, like right here you're running 8090, and then one of these iframes is running on 3000. So did the 3000 one have to include a header to allow?
I guess so, yeah, probably. But you could also run these in different tabs as well,
Okay, so
and it would still work. So we've actually seen that quite a lot where, you know, like so. Some of the app providers don't want to be run inside iframes. They sort of prevent that, and so you have to have them in a separate tab. But they'll still communicate via post message quite happily. So yes, it's not the end of the world. And in fact, that is kind of one of the reasons why we wanted to build all this stuff out, to test it out, because browser security protocols are quite annoying and restrictive, and so actually building something that works is kind of hard work, and we didn't want to just specify something that wasn't going to work. So, so yeah, any more questions about apps? And
Can you restrict an app to not send messages and only receive? So like the Workbench, you want to send messages, but the Pricer, you only want to receive. Is that an option?
yeah, that's where I'm going next, actually. So, somewhat is the answer. So those app directories that I showed you before, if I click on here, these different app directories actually are like just sort of JSON files, really, that describe what the apps can do. So I'm going to show you one of those quickly just to sort of demystify that a bit. So if I look at training appd, right, so that's the Pricer application we were just looking at, that big yellow, canary yellow application. And you can see in here it's basically saying, oh, this is the icon for it, and here's a screenshot. And this is the URL that you load up when you start that application. And then it also says how that application interacts with other applications. So what does it listen for? What intents can it support? And what that means, so the great thing about that is that if I want to raise an intent now, say Apple, so one of the options that comes up here, say like view quote Pricer, right? So the desktop agent knows that the Pricer can handle a view quote intent, and so you can start that and view the quote. And so that's all defined declaratively in that appd record. I thought there was going to be a question there, but you're just okay. So hopefully that makes some sense. And if you want a more granular level, then you have to probably program that in at the desktop agent level. You'd have to like try and configure some settings in the desktop agent where you say different apps can, again, it's, you know, like restrictions around what apps can receive what messages and things. I don't think that's part of the basic FDC3 standard, but there are desktop agents that do support that kind of thing. Okay, so let's dive into this Pricer application, right? So, in fact, let me just see if this works, right? If I go to Sale and I go back to my intent screen, in fact, let's just try and broadcast. So if I broadcast where's it gone? Broadcast context. And I'm going to broadcast Microsoft. Okay, well, nothing's happened, right? The Pricer hasn't changed, but the Pricer should change. And the reason the Pricer hasn't changed is because at the moment I've kind of taken all the FDC3 code out of the Pricer so that we can add it back in for this presentation. So that's what we're going to do next. So let's try and make this Pricer support FDC3. So if I go to, let's go to the code then. So this is my FDC3 sale repo, and for the purposes of this demo, I've like wanged all the code in there, and I'm starting up another, you know, a node instance to run that. But my Pricer code is here. right? So actually, just thinking about it, I did write a plan for this session. I'm just going to review my plan because it's always a good idea to make sure you haven't missed anything, isn't it? Oh, well, is this it? Never mind. We'll just carry on. So, yes, that's right. Okay, I remember how this worked now. So, basically, so this pricer page here, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here for like actually displaying the prices. There's a price list. There's a redraw the chooser. So, you know, this bit here, you know, that thing, there's a bit of code for that. So it's all in there, right? But we're going to ignore all of that for now. And concentrate on this bit at the end, right? So there's a function here, FDC3 ready. This is a promise, right? So basically when this promise completes, it's going to do the stuff inside this pair of curly brackets. And FDC3 ready is that whole handshaking process I described earlier. So what it's going to do is it's going to send the post message back to the parent or the opener and say, are you a desktop agent? And then the desktop agent's going to start sending messages back and forth and trying to establish what kind of UI to show for that pricer and all this kind of stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to add this bit of code, and we'll go through it, right? So this training kind of precedes FDC3 for the web. Now you can do this. You can do DA, which is a desktop agent. You can receive the desktop agent as the result of the promise, and then you can do da.addContextListener. So let's do that, right? So what it's saying is that once the handshake is complete, we get this implementation of a desktop agent interface. And this is where all the FDC3 magic happens, right? And we're going to add a context listener for the FDC3 instrument type. So if somebody broadcasts an instrument, this piece of code will pick it up. And so what this does then, it says if it's got a ticker, just change price to the ticker. Does that make sense? Everyone happy with that? Yeah? Okay, so let's see if it works or if I'm too tired to have any idea what's going on. Right, so I'm going to restart this application. Let's start pricer again. And we see it starts up with Tesla by standard. And then this time I'll broadcast, and hey, it's changed to Microsoft. So that's super simple, right? Just like 3 lines of code, basically, to get one application to listen to another one. And the same thing is true of that I was talking about raise intent earlier, right? The idea of one application starting another one. So let's go through that, right? So if I try and raise an intent for Meta, then as we saw, the desktop agent thinks, let's say I want to view a quote, and there's the pricer app here that can respond to that. So if I start this now, it'll start the pricer here. I'll just move this a bit. But yeah, it's still displaying Tesla. And again, this is because we haven't added the handler for that. Let me just try and, no, it's not happy with this. All right. Okay, fine. Right, so let's go back and add the code for that. Not sure what's going on there. It's been a long day. So this is the piece of code for FDC3 that will add the intent listener. And it's kind of almost the same. So we're doing add intent listener, view quote. And it's saying if it's an instrument and it's got a ticker, then I'm going to change the price. So it's kind of pretty much the same. So let's go back and see if that makes a difference. So let's close that down, come over here, and I'm going to raise the intent for Meta again. And view quote, pricer, go. There we go, and it says Meta this time. So you can see kind of easily how we can just listen to bits of stuff that are being broadcast on FDC3 or intents that are being raised. Anyone got any questions about that? Does that make sense? Now, what we've done there is we've raised this piece of meta context. If you see this list, right, there's all sorts of different types of contexts in FDC3, like contacts, countries, currencies, emails, all sorts of stuff, and they're being added to the standard all the time. And if you're doing serious FDC3 work, you're probably inventing new contexts of your own as well. And what we like is for people, if they invent their own context, it's good to tell us about it within the standard, because then there might be opportunity to like standardize that context in the future. And then if we standardize it, then more applications will use it, and more applications will interop with your context that you've invented. So by that way, we kind of develop this shared like dictionary of different things that we can handle and different ways of working. So we're going to stick to instruments today, right? But you know, you can add context listeners for any of these things, and it works in pretty much the same way. Yes?
So instead of really changing the code, user are really plugging some form of a configurable YAML file, like telling that, okay, now give me the codes for my car, Tesla, right?
Yeah.
You stick in the YAML file in the project, and it picks it up instead of really changing the code. Is that an option?
Yeah, it is. And we have, so there's, what are they called now? There's definitely an application in the FDC3 app directory that does something like that. It kind of works in a configurable way, and you can sort of like configure the FDC3 behavior. So we provide like the programmatic interface, and what they did is they wrote like a sort of a declarative language for describing FDC3 behaviors and added that on top. It's sort of like a sort of a bespoke thing, but is that the sort of thing you mean?
Yeah, but I will dig into it. Thank you.
Yeah. And yes, so the other thing that I'm sort of focusing on today is like the intent resolver, right? But there are other ways you can play with intents. So let's see if they're in here, right? So maybe it's not part of this. Yeah, you can do queries within FDC3. So you can say, give me the list of all the applications that can do X, or give me a list of all the applications that respond to this context. And you can sort of, then you can invoke things programmatically rather than through the chooser. And so that gives the app developers quite a lot of control over what it is they're doing. Yeah.
Is there any authentication built into this?
That is a question for tomorrow. So there is not, but Yannick at the back of the room is probably busily working away on tomorrow's demo, which includes, basically it includes signing and encryption of FDC3 messages. So that's not authentication, but we are going to get some point soon to the point of like authenticating applications, so that you know which applications you're talking to, and we avoid like man-in-the-middle problems around you know, people trying to exfiltrate data out of applications and stuff like that. For user authentication, it's not a great story in FDC3 at the moment, because let's say all these different applications that I have were from different providers. You would probably have to go through a login process with each one of them, and that could be quite onerous. So another demo that Yannick did last year sometime was, could we federate like authentication and like just have a company managing the login and other apps using that, which is quite nice, but nobody's really picked up on that work yet. I think we need the app authentication sorted out first, and then we can start to look a bit more carefully at that, I think. So yeah, that is, and actually some of the vendors, some of the desktop agent vendors do support their own authentication schemes. So like interop.io will have like, I guess it's OAuth 2, right? They just like have an OAuth 2 provider, and they say, oh, all your apps can use this if you want them to. But yeah.
Can you plug in open source like Backstage, which is a modern authentication module, right? To this pretty much, right?
You could, yeah. But FDC3 really is like focused on getting apps to talk to each other. So authentication's kind of slightly out of the remit, especially user authentication. It's sort of out of the remit of what we're trying to solve with FDC3. But yeah, if it gets to the point where the standard needs it, then I guess it'll get added in, because, yeah. Okay, so we've got the pricer like listening to intents and context data, right? How are we doing for time here? I think we're all right. This is an hour, so we've got maybe 20 more minutes. But what we also want to be able to do is make it tell other things what to do, okay? So for this, I've got another demo app, which I'm going to bring up, called Trade List. So here's Trade List. And this is my little blotter. So I can add in a stock here. Let's add 10 Microsoft stocks. And what I'd really like to be able to do is to click on one of these and then for the pricer to update and show me what the latest price of that thing is. That'd be quite a nice feature to have. Or maybe I could, with that graphing application, where is it? Update to show me the graph. That would all be cool, right? So let's see if we can code up some of that. So if I go to Trade List now, right? So these are really simple applications. They're just a few lines of JavaScript here. Let me check one thing quickly. All right. Yeah. So if I go to, let's do this bit. So there's a function in here, render stock, right, which renders a row on the display. But what I really want to be able to do is to say, when we render that stock, I want a little button next to the stock list. So on each row, I want a button that does something FDC3-ish with that stock. So I'm going to code in that for a second. So this is this piece of code here. So FDC3 ready does happen somewhere. It's down the bottom here. And then what FDC3 ready does is it also sets this window.fdc3 global object, which is your FDC3 instance. It's the same thing as the thing that returns from the promise. It's a desktop agent. And so what we're going to do is we create a button, and then we're going to add that to the row, and then it's going to have an ellipsis on it. And then when you click it, it's going to raise that context. So pretty much the same thing as the Workbench did. So here we're using raise intent for context, whereas before we were using listen for add context listener. So let's see how that works now. So I'm going to close this guy down, close this guy down. Did I save it? I don't know if I saved it. No. Okay, hold on. Let me go back to. Oh. Right. So let me bring up the trade list again. And is it going to do it? Oh, there we go. So it took a second or two to bring it up, but once the screen refreshed, it brought up the price. So let's add in Microsoft again. And if I press this button now, okay, we can see that it's brought up the intent resolver again. And so I can, view a quote, or I can do get prices. I'm surprised there's not, oh yeah, here we go. So, or I can view a chart. So let's bring up the chart for Microsoft. There we go. So I'm viewing the Microsoft chart. So that's kind of cool, right? So we're now using it to raise an intent. And I guess we could also do a broadcast instead if I wanted to. So let's change that to broadcast, right? We'll broadcast, okay. And let me go back to here again. So I'll leave these guys on the screen. So we were looking at Microsoft here and Tesla here. And I'll bring that guy back up. And let's add in, these are all just obviously not real trades or anything, but I'm going to add in Apple, and when I press this, there we go, everything updates to show Apple. And I can go back to Tesla and Apple and so on. So there you go, you can see, hopefully that's kind of it really. I think that was the main thing I wanted to show you, just how easy it was to just add some FDC3 behavior to an existing application. Does that make sense? Are there any other questions or anything else you want me to show you? Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned that behind the scene it uses post messages, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the security aspect of it, will it be part of the desktop agent spec, or is it something that maybe with your Apple instance to make sure that it verifies the origin and encryption and all that?
So it's kind of on the user at the moment to make sure that they're not messing around with the wrong applications. But as I said, probably in FDC3 2.3, we'll have this handshake where we what will happen is that when the app talks to the desktop agent will say, okay, I think you're so-and-so. I'm going to send you some text. I want you to encrypt it with your private key and send it back to me. And then I'm going to check that you are who you say you are by using your public key to validate that text, that it was the what I sent. And so by that sort of mechanism, we should be able to establish that we're talking to the right apps. And probably there'll be certificates involved as well in that. But and maybe even FINOS will have a hand in some kind of like app validation, like authority, if you like, in doing that. But yes, so that's coming soon, I think.
And as a follow-up, I think we saw the example of iScript, but you mentioned it also works with the tabs, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Hold on. So let me. Do you want to see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to have to go back to the other. This is obviously why I put. Let me just do git branch. So if I go to, where is it? So Sale 2 Chris demo. I think this is what I check out. Run dev. Right, let's see if this works. So for the demo, because I wanted to demonstrate this on stage today, so there is in the app directory, there is like a piece of metadata in there to say, load it in a tab or load it in a frame. But for the purposes of the demo, I wanted to be able to control that. So if I just refresh this now. So if I load up the FDC3 Workbench, I've got these two buttons now, open here or open in tab. And so I can go over here, and it opens it in a tab. And it works subtly differently here, right? So although it's still connected to Sale, and I can, let me load up the trading view chart again, just to show you this. So I'll load this here, right? And if I go to the Workbench and I change this to channel 1, and I do a broadcast, where is it? Broadcast meta. Then if I go back over here, you'll see this is updated to meta. So these are on the same channel. One's in a tab, one's embedded in an iframe in another tab. So it's sort of all handling it all. But yeah, we're supporting all those use cases. And I guess the other thing is that, as you saw, like, well, in fact, yeah, so this, when I do a raise intent here, it uses Sales, sorry, it uses the Workbench's screen to show the intent resolver, whereas when I did it here, it used the whole Sales screen. So there's quite a lot of control that you have as a desktop agent builder over where these bits of Chrome, these user interfaces live and how they work. So this is like Sale user interfaces, but we've kind of supplied some standard ones as well if you want to use those, or you can, if you're a desktop agent builder, you can write your own, basically, and yeah.
But the only caveat is it has to be launched from the agent. If I have already
Yes,
have an
yeah.
app running, and if I open another browser, there is...
Yeah, that's right. Everything has to be launched from the same desktop agent. Otherwise, you're in hell, really, aren't you? Because you could have 3 different windows with 3 different desktop agents in, and you wouldn't know who started it or what was going on. So yeah, that is the restriction. Once the apps are connected, though, yeah, it's fine. You can, yeah.
Just one last question.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Is it possible to register different kind of agents? Like, let's say if I have something running on my server, is there a mechanism to register, say, don't use the post message default, like connect to this agent, or
Yes.
is this something like that?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, so there's like this is kind of a somewhat baroque use case, but we do have members of FINOS that need that functionality, members of the FDC3 project. So that get agent function has like an override or a sort of a fallback option where you can basically supply whatever piece of JavaScript you want, and it will try and use that JavaScript to get hold of a desktop agent. So it could be, go over here, talk to this server, and give me something back based on that, or whatever. So that does happen in some environments, so we had to provide for that as well. Yeah.
Is there any support for streaming data?
Yes, there is. I'm wondering how I can show you that now. So I think I'm just going to have to talk over that one. But there is a concept, or maybe I can do it this way. Hold on. Yeah, so FDC3 has this channels function, right? So we've seen a bit of it. These are user channels, right? These three things here. So, yeah, there is also two other things, app channels and private channels. So a pair of apps or a group of apps can get together and say, we want to talk on our own channel and create that channel, and then they can pass context data around between them via that. But there's also private channels, so you can raise an intent to an application to say, give me back a price stream. And the price stream will be a channel, like a private channel, and then you can broadcast prices down that channel to that application. And in the full tutorial, which you now all have the code, actually you guys don't have the code, we must make sure, the tutorial does show private channels and how private channels work and takes you through bits of code to set those up and run those. So because you came in late, you missed this. This is really important. The stuff I've been showing you today is based on a training course called LFD237 that the Linux Foundation runs, training.linuxfoundation.org. And as you can see, it costs 299 of your American pounds, dollars. It's late. It's been a long day. I've got jet lag. But because you've come to this training session, you can have it for free. And there is a code here. I think I did a bigger version of that. Let me just pull it up again. Or is that gone? That's gone to never be found again. Let me paste it in again. No. Just in wind to hell. Right. So there we go. So this is the code that you need, right, for you latecomers. If you write this down, you can take this in your spare time and get a badge from the Linux Foundation to say you know all about FDC3. There is a free training course as well on this website. So we have the LFD introduction to FDC3, which is free. Everyone can take it. Get your boss to take it, or your CTO or whatever, so that they know what FDC3 is. Right. Yeah, and then we also have, we've got the developing solutions for FDC3, which is the paid course, but it's all free to you guys. And then we also have this certified FDC3 practitioner exam. So if you're feeling really strong on FDC3, you want to start betting your career on it, then go take the exam and become a certified professional.
Where's the code?
For the exam, I didn't get one for the exam. Come on, it's not Christmas. All right, well, look, that's about it anyway. I think I've kept you from the beers long enough, right? That's the end today. This is the last thing, right?
So can you open package.json?
Can I do what?
The package.json on the branch that you're showing. It has a relative path.
Oh, right. So hold on, let me go back. So you mean this directory entry, this one? This guy?
Yeah. On the package.json.
Oh, right. Yes, that's right. Well, is it right? No, this is using...
No, it's not that one.
Oh, this one?
Yeah. Yeah, see.
Oh, man. What, even in your one?
Yeah, it didn't work for me because I don't have that stuff there.
Well, let's see if we can let's fix this now. Hold on. So if I check out sale to OSFF, you're on this one, right?
Yep.
npm update. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, you're right. That's my bad. Look, it's the same as that one though.
Yeah.
There you go. So How's that?
It didn't change the package dash lock.json level, because it didn't do it.
No. All right. You'll have to do an update and pull in the latest
So
stuff.
I see it's beta in terms of the versioning. When do you plan to kind of roll out a proper assembler?
Right, yes, that's a really good question. So as you can see, this isn't even at FINOS at the moment, but after today, we should be very soon publishing at FINOS beta versions of FDC3 2.2.0 beta something. And then there will be, we're going to have a period where we really lock down the implementation and get this reviewed. And then eventually we will get to a full release. It's kind of a community project, so I can't give you a date on exactly when that will be. But I don't feel like it's going to be too long away. I think, we've had to basically get code complete just to prove that the whole thing works. So we'll see. But I'd imagine it'll be sometime this year.
So in terms of building other languages, not necessarily for the demo, but for the FDC3 core, are they being built one by one, or is it code generation to enable it in lots of languages at the same time?
Right. So I think, well, we'll have to see what happens because it is a community thing. I'm not going to do that myself. I might do the Java one, but I'd rather somebody else picked it up and did it. For this, we have basically, let me show you quickly. So we have a whole bunch of projects around this. So if I go to labs, if I go here and I go, I'm fairly sure the Java, there's an FDC3 Java API here, which is it's like the shape, the Java interfaces for FDC3. And if I go back to here and I do, so there's an FDC3.NET package as well, which again is the shape of all the .NET libraries. So what we now have with FDC3 for the web is we have a protocol, and we have obviously these interfaces. So all we need is the bit in between that takes the method call from the interface and turns it into a message to go on the protocol and handles that. So sorry?
You have a UI which is in the React. Then how do you get to plug in the Java and the .NET?
Well, they'll work a different way. So they'll probably, what you'd have to do is open a server port up or a WebSocket or something, and then talk WebSockets with Java. But just one last thing on that thing. So what we also did, let me see if I can find the FDC3 project quickly. Yeah, here it is. I kind of anticipated that we would have a lot of people writing a lot of different language binding implementations. So when I did the FDC3 agent proxy is the TypeScript implementation. But when I did this, I actually wrote a whole bunch of Gherkin files that describe exactly what that proxy needs to do. And so really what should be possible now is that the language binding people can pick up these Gherkin files and rewrite them, rewrite the steps in Java or C# or whatever, and it should be that they can run exactly the same tests and get to the same place. Right, yeah. Honestly, I would have thought that once we've done the .NET one, the C# one should be just hey GitHub, can you just convert this for me from one language to the other? And, yeah. Maybe even Python will be like that. I don't know. So yeah, hopefully that won't be too much of a problem. But once we've done that, we will have FDC3 using a common protocol for all these different languages, working on all machines, all environments, and that will be pretty cool. And it'll be onto security. All right, I think we're pretty much at time now. Go on. Last question. Oh, throttle. Yeah. That's not built into the FDC3 standard, but it's certainly functionality that a desktop agent provider could have, or an app could do themselves as well. So there's no, and I think things like the IO Connect browser does do that. within this project, if you look at the README in the training directory, it tells you how to set up IO Connect and try that out if you're interested in. No, not. Wrong project. Hold on. So if I go to training, no, where is it? Instructions. Yeah, so there's some instructions here on how to use IO Connect or OpenFin or Connectify if you're interested in. It's going fine. So yeah, so there you go. So that is possible, but just outside the standard, really. Okay. Thanks for listening to my talk.